Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted was the greatest FNAF game of all time, and here's why. The game focuses on players surviving minigames based on different parts of the Five Nights at Freddy's lore, from FNAF 1, 2, 3, kinda 4, as well as many other minigames. The game truly explores different aspects of the Five Nights at Freddy's world. The game was originally developed by Steelwool Studios as well as Scott Cawthon. The platforms the game released on were the PlayStation 4, Microsoft Windows, also known as Steam, the Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, Oculus Quest, iOS, and Android. Of course, the price for most of these games were rather high, being around $30, which is actually lower compared to most games, but is pretty expensive for a Five Nights at Freddy's one. The game also, as said, released on iOS and Android for around $5, which isn't too bad. The original release date was May 28th, 2019 on Steam. While there were fan games and such, this was the first official VR Five Nights at Freddy's game, and oh boy did it do a lot of things right. This was the first time Steelwool Studios was making a FNAF game, and from what we've seen, it should have stayed that way. But in Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach's defense, the game was rather rushed and didn't have all the time it needed. Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, on the other hand, was rather well made. It was given a lot of time, and it was obvious that Steelwool Studios really cared about Five Nights at Freddy's. This was shown with how Steelwool Studios treated each and every Five Nights at Freddy's game and mini-game with so much care and precision. While the games like Five Nights at Freddy's 1, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Five Nights at Freddy's 3 were all added into the game, there wasn't FNAF 4 or FNAF Sister Location. However, there was new games known as Dark Rooms, Parts and Service, Vent Repair, Night Terrors. To start off, we have Five Nights at Freddy's 1, which was a recreation of the original Five Nights at Freddy's game. It, of course, has nights 1, 2, 3, and 4, as well as a hard mode consisting of night 5. While FNAF 1 was originally a very indie game, it was very old, and it was nice to see this game recreated in VR with higher graphics. The entire tone and mood seems different, as while the original game didn't have much story, or not much we understood, after all the events we know about, playing this game in VR is truly a terrifying experience. Having to look on the cameras, seeing the animatronics slowly get near you, as well as being able to look around, it makes the entire experience even more chilling because it feels real. I would highly recommend anybody with a VR headset to get the game even just for Five Nights at Freddy's 1, since it's not just a perfect, but I think an even better version of the original game, simply due to just how it feels actually being there, being able to move around, having to press the different cameras with your own hands, or having to run to shut a door or click a light. What helps the immersion is that you can actually touch everything around your office. You can throw a paper ball around, you can drink out of a cup, you can answer the phone and actually put it up to your ear to hear it. You can also open up drawers to find things like tapes or coins that are more important later down the road in the game. What doesn't help is that the animatronics are massive. Even people who are rather tall still admit that the animatronics are giant, and it's kind of scary putting a light outside your door and just seeing Bonnie looming over you. In all honesty, I kind of have to admit I'm not that good at FNAF 1. Even at the start, when I played on mobile, the original Five Nights at Freddy's 1, I wasn't that good at it. And when I played it in VR, I was terrible. I didn't like the feeling of being completely stuck in the office knowing the animatronics were coming towards me. And that's kind of the reason I recommend people play it. I know people sometimes think that YouTubers overreact with their expressions when they play, and well, partially yes, YouTubers do kind of show more emotion while recording. I don't think it's too much of an overreaction when playing these VR games for the first time, because they truly are scary. In all, Five Nights at Freddy's 1 and Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted is a really good remake, as well as a new experience for people who played the original game and people who want to play VR. I definitely recommend, like I said, getting Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted just for night 1. However, this discussion isn't ending here. Five Nights at Freddy's 2 and Help Wanted is very, very different to how it was in the original game on mobile. This is partially due to there not exactly being a power system in Five Nights at Freddy's 2, at least in the VR version. In the original, if you remember, you had a certain amount of power that you would need to put on lights, kind of just lights. In the VR game, this isn't actually a thing. No matter what you do or how much power you use, there's just no power meter, which definitely makes Five Nights at Freddy's 2 easier than the original counterpart. However, it still shares all the same animatronics, and besides that, it still shares many similarities, in fact all similarities, to its original counterpart. Of course, the animatronics are bigger, it's a bit easier, as well as being able to check the lights and wind up the camera at the same time. And this is why, besides things like parts and service, I think Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is, for the most part, the easiest help wanted game. That doesn't mean it's bad. Personally, it's my favorite, partially due to because how easy it is. Yes, I know that might sound bad, but it feels very confident being able to play a Five Nights at Freddy's game and feel like that you're gonna win. Sorry for making that so short, but anyways, we don't have too much time, so let's soar right over to Five Nights at Freddy's 3. Oh boy. Now let me just say, Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is terrifying. I mean, come on! Five Nights at Freddy's was always scary, but they literally made it a horror attraction. Admittedly, I'm honestly kinda scared to play the original game, never mind the VR game. I'm staying away with that with a 10-foot stick. But despite my misgivings about the game, from what I've seen other people play, it is so much fun. It is a really well recreation of Five Nights at Freddy's 3, and as I said, I think it's scarier than the original game. This is because the Phantom animatronics and Springtrap moves around a lot in this game. To start off with, unlike the original Five Nights at Freddy's 3, in this game you can check your monitors, well both monitors, around the same time, and you can reload a bar, or you can reload the ventilation or power, or whatever it's called, as well as looking on the cameras at the same time, and this is really useful. As well as the fact that the game looks just fantastic. From the Phantom animatronics to Springtrap, the recreation is honestly amazing. And while it's not the scariest Help Wanted game, it really is a contender for the position. For example, the Phantom animatronics are terrifying between switching through cameras, trying not to stare at Foxy, as well as seeing Freddy just walk in front of you. The game gives a rather creepy atmosphere off, especially with the vent right next to you. As we all know, Springtrap likes going through the vents, which is kinda, no, I won't say it. Like, honestly, Springtrap, it feels like he lathers himself in butter and just dives right into these vents with how quickly he gets to your office. It is kinda scary just seeing him crawl towards you like that. But overall, the tactic still kinda just stays the same, with you want to lure Springtrap to the top right of the map using the Balloon Boy voice or whatever it is. So honestly, it doesn't change that much besides it being terrifying. In all, the first three Fnaf games are amazing renditions and remastering of the first, well, 3 games. From Five Nights at Freddy's 1's stellar jump scares and atmosphere, to Fnaf's 2 easy but fun gameplay, and to Five Nights at Freddy's 3's, well, you know, it's Five Nights at Freddy's 3. The game is just amazing, and having these games in VR are amazing. It truly brings the series to life. But there are still more games, so don't leave just yet. Next, we have Dark Rooms. Dark Rooms are pretty similar to Fun with Plushtrap from Five Nights at Freddy's 4, and this is mostly because there isn't actually a Five Nights at Freddy's 4 in Help Wanted, mostly just an assortment of minigames. Then there is Plushtrap and Nightmare Balloon Boy, which, as said, are just Fun with Plushtrap, including I believe it was the Halloween DLC. These, while basically an exact copy from Five Nights at Freddy's 4, are actually pretty scary. You can always get the timing right, but it's still scary seeing the animatronics slowly, and slowly get closer to you. And you think it's slow until Plushtrap eats your face. Next we have Plush Baby. And Plush Baby. No, not this again, Anyways, Plush Baby, basically you're in what seems like a storage room for, well, plushies. And you have limited flashlight that runs out, and your goal is to survive to 6 AM, like always. There are 3 Plush Baby plushies that, well, it starts off with 1, and then over the night there's more and more. And these little guys, girls, gals, non-binaries, sometimes just appear and slowly walk towards you, and your goal is to aim your flashlight at them and get them to disappear. which is kinda hard considering it's almost impossible to find them, and you need to put your flashlight on them for like 4 seconds before they go. These 3 games, Plush Trap, Nightmare Balloon Boy, and Plush Baby, are all really fun games. The strategies for Plush Trap and Nightmare Balloon Boy are mostly just the same as the original FNAF 4, because they're the same game. And the Plush Baby minigame, while being rather difficult, you can slowly get a process of just flashing your flashlight everywhere, waiting for it to recharge, then doing it again. Both games are pretty fun, and I think they are some of the scariest FNAF games, well, in this VR game. Of course, there are some that I would consider scarier, but it's still honestly a really fun experience, and a scary one. Now for the final dark room, we have Funtime Foxy. Now this is almost exactly like the original game from Sister Location, with Funtime Foxy moving around the room, and we get to turn the light on every once in a while, and Funtime Foxy slowly gets closer, 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 and then kills you. Kind of. This follows almost the exact same strategy from the original game, but it is a bit harder when you have to actually move the analog stick, and you can actually see everything around you. Since Sister Location was mostly a linear game, playing it in VR where you can move around is honestly kind of frightening. But in all, the Dark Rooms games are pretty fun, and I'd recommend trying them out. Now on to Parts and Service. In Parts and Service, players need to, well, as the name implies, deal with parts and service. This ends up being the animatronics Bonnie, Chica, Freddy, and Foxy, and over the course of the game, you have to repair them. I guess game, more so each mini-game. We start off with Bonnie with a simple repair where you have to take out his eyes, pry his mouth open, and make sure his guitar is working. This is pretty simple, but most people kinda get mixed up since it asks you to take out his left eye, and you need to take out the opposite eye because the game's weird. Next we have Chica, and oh boy, Chica is disgusting. She has pizza on her, roaches everywhere, god, she's a mess. You need to take the pizza off, then use some chemical spray. But you may want to watch out since the cupcake doesn't really like to stick around. Then of course we have our star of the show, Freddy Fazbear, who for some reason has a hat in his mouth and a watch in his stomach, as well as a shoe. You kinda need to take Freddy Fazbear apart and get all that stuff out, but the machinery there, as well as his music box, are a bit finicky, so you gotta watch out for that. And then, of course, we got Foxy. Foxy is possibly the most difficult animatronic to deal with in Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, at least Parts and Service. This is due to how sporadically he moves, and you need to put these little fuses or little power generators inside him, and make sure to keep your eyes on him, because otherwise he may run at you. Now, onto Vent Repair. Vent Repair is 2 different mini-games. One where you're in a little cluttered vent having to repair it, why it's called Vent Repair, where you have to press buttons, pull levers, figure out puzzles, and while doing this, Mango runs at you from one of the 3 vents near you, and you kind of just have to look at her, him, them. If you look at them, then they back off. The next is Ennard, and Ennard's a bit more difficult. This is mostly due to because in Ennard's level there is multiple floors. With the first one, you just have to kind of look around and see where the wires are leading to. The wires go from a box to a little button in front of you, and as you slowly go down, the wires get further away, there's not as much light, and if you take too much time, or you press the wrong button, Ennard will basically just kill you. As well as there being a level where you have to put these cog wheels inside different machinery, and if you're too slow with that, Ennard also gets you. In the final level, you have to burn him alive, so well, have fun with that. Finally, for the original game, we have Night Terrors, and this is kind of just like, what's it called? Five Nights at Freddy's 4. At least in the term that you're in the Five Nights at Freddy's 4 bedroom with 2 doors to your left and right. Well, it just is the FNAF 4 bedroom. However, instead of there being the Nightmare animatronics, there is Funtime Freddy, Night Marionette, and Nightmare Fredbear. All 3 of these each are basically just like the FNAF 4 game with less animatronics, and each of them, however, have their own little gimmicks, with Funtime Freddy having the pink bonbon, Night Marionette having these weird gooey things, and Nightmare Fredbear being able to teleport? I don't know, man, it's crazy. Then Circus Baby is the only animatronic that kind of defies this trend, with you being in the closet, where when she sees you, she runs at you and you have to close the closet. In all, Night Terrors is pretty fun, and in my opinion, the spookiest game here. Just because the feeling of being a tiny child in a bedroom was already scary in Five Nights at Freddy's 4, and actually having to move around the bedroom, opening and closing doors, and seeing the animatronics at the end of the hallway, God, it's terrifying. However, that's not where the original game ends. If you complete all the levels in a minigame, there is actually a nightmare mode, and this mode kinda just makes the game harder, and usually only consists of one night. For FNAF 1, we basically just have Night 5, same with Five Nights at Freddy's 2 and Five Nights at Freddy's 3, where it's basically just the Night 5. However, for Five Nights at Freddy's 2, there are the Withered animatronics, which you can set to easy, normal, or hard. And the Withered animatronics are truly terrifying, since it does also consist of the original animatronics from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. I would really recommend playing the Withered animatronics mode for Five Nights at Freddy's 2, because it makes the game a lot harder, even with unlimited power, plus the atmosphere is generally just kinda spooky. For Five Nights at Freddy's 1, the entire surrounding is like grayed out, and for Five Nights at Freddy's 3, it's nightmare mode, the place is on fire, which is a really good call to how the place ends up getting burnt down. For the dark rooms, well, the nightmare mode is really nightmarish, with for Plush Trap, it kind of being like the normal mode, but with more things around. For Nightmare Balloon Boy, there's balloons covering the entire screen, so it's hard to notice where he is. For Plush Baby, all of the plushes are the baby animatronic, with the actual ones trying to kill you being, well, the little messed up ones from Five Nights at Freddy's 6. Then there being Funtime Foxy. In this one, instead of it just being Funtime Foxy, almost every single sister location, as well as multiple of them, are there, including Lolbit, which is a really good addition. Of course, next we have Parts and Service, which just kind of adds strange things around the animatronics. For Bonnie, it looks like you're at a rave. For Chica, the roaches are like, I don't know, Godzilla-sized. For Freddy, like, everything around him is grayed out, there's glitching with Freddos everywhere. For Foxy, the things you use to repair Foxy, the little circular things, oval things, the parts they use to repair him keep on changing colors, which makes it harder to, like, understand where you put each wire, as well as there being fire everywhere, and it kind of just changes the aesthetic of it to make it harder to play. Then we have Vent Repair, and Vent Repair kind of just makes everything darker and changes it, as well as it being upside down for some reason. In Ennard's minigame, instead of going down, you seem to go upwards, with there being random animatronics thrown into the elevator. And for both Mangle and Ennard, it's kind of just cosmetic changes. It's not particularly harder. Well, I guess in Ennard's case it kind of is. And in Mangled, all vents are open at the same time. So, I guess it is harder. Since for Mangle, all the vents are open at once. And for Ennard, it's just kind of creepier. For Night Terrors, well, the hard mode is a bit different. Instead of it being Funtime Freddy, Nightmare Ned, and those guys, it's a thing called Pizza Party. But I think I need a little explaining to do before we get into that. The plot of the game is that sometimes after the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 6, which I believe is Pizzeria Simulator, the company of, well, Freddy's decides that nobody really likes them because of all the murders and stuff, so they hire an indie game developer to kind of make it seem like all of those events were a bit exaggerated. Then the company made their own game, which is Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, and this game was to also kind of make light of all those events and make it seem like everything that happened in the couple games of Five Nights at Freddy's were all kind of just over-exaggerations, and none of it really actually happened that way. However, while they were working on the game, they were kind of scanning parts from animatronics into the code of the game to make it more authentic. I don't really know how this works or why it works, it kind of just does. And one of the animatronic parts they scan into the game was, assumingly, spring traps. This causes a weird glitchy spring trap to appear in the game, known as Glitch Trap. Then there was the company and people working on it continued developing the game and slowly noticed Glitch Trap kind of just popping up. And so there was this worker whose friend seemed to have gotten possessed by Glitchtrap, and the person ended up cutting their own face off, which kind of disgusting. That led what we call Tape Girl to figure out more about this Glitchtrap animatronic, figure out why he's there, and over the game we can find different tapes in different locations throughout every single minigame that slowly piece together the story. We can listen to these tapes and figure out that the more tapes you collect, Glitchtrap appears more and more. And so seemingly, Tape Girl at the end gives you information on how to kind of get rid of this Glitchtrap. This is also kind of due to Glitchtrap wanting to leave the game. He is trapped inside this VR game, Help Wanted, and he wants to get out. Seemingly the game is called Help Wanted because he needs your help. His goal is to merge with you and to take over your mind to escape the game. And he does this by trying to fuse minds with you, which is kind of weird, but it's what he does. And there are 3 endings to this game. 1, Pizza Party, which, well, kinda sucks, but Glitchtrap seemingly turns you into Freddy Fazbear. I don't really know what it means exactly, but the main gist of it is that he lures you to the back of the pizzeria, kind of like what he was described doing in the first games, and seemingly stuffs you inside a Freddy Fazbear suit. If you fail a certain series of events, causing a reboot of the game, then Glitchtrap possesses you and he gets away. However, what most people consider to be the true ending is where, while he's trying to fuse with you, you press a bunch of buttons, and you appear in front of a door with handprints on it, with Glitchtrap on the other side. He will then shush the player and then slowly back away. Then after the cutscene plays, this anomaly, Glitchtrap, just becomes a seemingly harmless, glitchy green rabbit plush toy. In all, Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted is just an amazing game, with a company trying to get away the bad image of Freddy Fazbear's with this new game, to Glitchtrap showing up in the source code, as well as all the mini-games from Fnaf 1, 2, 3, Dark Rooms, Night Terrors, Parts and Service, Vent Repair. It's a lot of different mini-games that I've played a lot with friends, and it seems like a really fun game for parties. Mostly because you never really know what's going to happen. You can fail, you can win, and the game doesn't have many glitches. It's a really, really well-made game, and it takes the good parts of the first 3 games and kind of mixes up the good and bad parts of the other games in the series. And so you can say like FNAF 1, 2, 3 is your favorite game, or possibly Sister Location or FNAF 4, but Help Wanted kind of bundles it all up into this one game that's right for everybody. And as far as I've seen, nobody really dislikes Help Wanted. It's kind of the go-to FNAF game. Wait, why do I hear creepy music? The Curse of Dreadbear. The Curse of Dreadbear was extra content that was added to the Freddy Fazbear's virtual experience, and of course this was for Halloween. While this is said to not have any lore for the actual game, we all know that's not true. Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, the DLC at least, starts off with Afraid of the Dark. And oh boy, this one's a ride. The first 2 games are Plushkin Patch, which is kind of just the Plush Baby minigame, except in a weird little forest with some, farming stuff around. And it's not too hard, but definitely a more creepy spin on Plush Baby, with them all wearing Five Nights at Freddy's masks. And then the next game is Pirate Ride. Pirate Ride is one of the favorite minigames, as you mostly just shoot targets while going on a roller coaster, and it's really fun. There's many different cardboard cutouts with targets you have to shoot, and your goal is to collect as much points as possible. It's, of course, pirate themed, with Foxy being the leading star here. However, there are lefties sprinkled around that if you shoot them and make them face the opposite way of which they're facing, you get to go to a creepy area, usually offset areas resembling Five Nights at Freddy's 1, 2, and 3, where these Jacko animatronics from the Halloween DLC to Five Nights at Freddy's 4 chase you down, and you gotta get away from them. But in all, Pirate Ride is just really fun. It's very unique, as in, it's not very scary if you keep to the original set path of the game, and it's always fun for people who maybe aren't as used to Help Wanted and Five Nights at Freddy's, though it can give a bit of motion sickness to people who aren't acquainted with VR. Then we have Corn Maze, and oh god, there is so much to say about this. In Corn Maze, you're in a corn maze, of course, with this on-fire Foxy who chases you down. Whenever he sees you, he will chase and lunge at you, and when this happens, you naturally need to hide in a cutout so he doesn't kill you. And these usually have cool FNAF Easter eggs, like the spooky Shadow, I believe it's Shadow Bonnie, as well as I believe Shadow Freddy, as long as Plushtrap. You have to hide behind these cutouts whenever he, well, lunges at you. There's also keys sprinkled around the map, each corresponding to a different gate. However, if you collect all 4 keys, then you can go back to the middle of the map, where there will be a little downward exit. If you go down here, you will find the Vanny mask, and if you put this Vanny mask on and talk to the little glitch trap plushie, then you may get a secret message. But in all, Corn Maze is rather scary, and like I said, I've played this with friends, and most people are terrified of this one, even if nothing else phases them. Next, we move on to Spooky Mansion, and this is one of the only DLC-only challenges, since these mostly contain challenges that have never been seen before. These include Hallway, Build-A-Mango, Trick or Treat, and Dreadbear. To start off with, we have Hallway. Hallway, kind of just the name gives it away, but it's a bit different than maybe you would have imagined. You start off in the Five Nights at Freddy's 4 hallway, trying to make it to the room. And as you walk forward, there are doors on either side of you, with Chica, Bonnie appearing on each side and walking out of the doors. If you are in their line of sight, they will kill you. In front of you is Foxy, who spawns every once in a while, and you can only see him when lightning flashes. He's one of the most active threats here, because if you move and he sees you, he will run at you. This doesn't help with the fact that you move insanely slow, so it's hard to get to the finish line. And of course, you can't forget the giant bear behind you. Yeah, Nightmare Freddy slowly walks after you, and while he is rather slow, since you also move rather slow, he catches up quickly than you'd want. This game mode is pretty fun, and honestly, I haven't played it much just because it freaks me out. Then on to Build-A-Mango. Build-A-Mango is, while not the scariest game, it's rather confusing. There's 2 conveyor belts on either side of you, with a list of parts in front of you. On the conveyor belt, parts will slowly go down the conveyor, and you need to pick them out and drop them in a little drop box. However, if you don't do this correctly, then you're screwed, because if you put a wrong part in, then Mango will come after you. This doesn't help that a lot of the parts look similar, and the screen is always changing with which parts you need to get. In all, this one is pretty fun, since the Mango you end up making always looks hilarious. Now, let's go to Trick or Treat, which is very, very fitting for Halloween. Sucks it's not Halloween anymore. In this game mode, you are in front of a house with a window to either side of you. In this, you can see animatronics like Withered Freddy, Foxy, Bonnie, Chica, as well as Mango, Balloon Boy, and I believe that's it. This game mode is honestly rather frightening. Once the timer starts, the animatronics, you can see them pass through the window into the door. And after a certain amount of time, the door will open and one of the animatronics will pop out. There are 6 masks, each corresponding to one of the animatronics in the window. And once the animatronic gets to the door, you need to put the mask on of what you think the animatronic is there. This is rather hard because since the animatronics are always moving between windows, you can never really tell who's actually in the door. And this game mode is really, really fun with friends since there's 3 rounds of this. So it's pretty fun to see who can make it the farthest, and also yell that you think Freddy's the one at the door. Then we have Dreadbear, which is basically just making Frankenstein. No, that's literally it. You have to coat his brain, put his brain in, electrocute him, and I honestly don't know, I never really got past this one. Dreadbear is pretty difficult since, while the instructions seem clear, there's a lot of things that can mess it up. But honestly, I'd implore you to get the game just to try to figure out how Dreadbear works, because it's a bit difficult. Then, finally, we have Danger Keep Out. Danger Keep Out is more so a parallel to Five Nights at Freddy's 1, as in you're in the Five Nights at Freddy's, restaurant, along with Dreadbear. This game mode is rather terrifying actually, since the doors to either side of you are boarded up with wood planks, and if the animatronics get near them, they will start hitting on the planks and breaking them. The only way to stop them is to shine the flashlight on them at the side of the door. However, this runs out of power fast, and you can run out of power in almost seconds. There is a lever you can click to how do you say it? Like a generator that resolves the power issue by giving you more power. However, this takes a bit to load. So it's kind of worrying just waiting for the power to reload, knowing that the animatronics are going to try to kill you. In all, that's mostly just Five Nights at Freddy's How It Wanted. The game is honestly a blast, and I'd really recommend playing it. I know I've just kind of spoken a lot about how each of the game modes work, and how they're similar to their original counterparts, but I believe this all kind of equals into the ball that is Help Wanted and why it's the best Five Nights at Freddy's game of all time. As said, you have parts of the original games, Fnaf 1, 2, 3, as well as stuff from Fnaf 4, Sister Location, and even Pizzeria Simulator, even if only slightly. You kind of just get a bundle of everything good about Five Nights at Freddy's. To make it even better, it's in VR on mobile, and there's a bunch of mysteries in this game. From Glitch Trap, to Vanessa, to Tape Girl, to Princess Quest, and there's even a lot more stuff of the Halloween DLC that I haven't even talked about, as well as stuff like the coin prize systems. There's just a lot about this game that's hard to fit in one video, and I just really recommend playing it. For new fans of Five Nights at Freddy's, for old fans of Five Nights at Freddy's, there's honestly something for everybody. This game is also amazing at parties, seeing who can beat which games and who can just, in general, do better at each mode. It's a really fun game, and I think it's honestly something that everybody can enjoy because it has something for everybody. Of course, the originals can be your favorite, but I at least think due to all these reasons, Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted is kind of the quintessential Five Nights at Freddy's game, because not only does it have everything that the first games made good, but it has even more stuff for everybody. So honestly, if you have a VR, or even if you don't, if you just have a phone, or a computer, or Steam, I'd recommend giving the game a try, because even not being in VR, this game is still a blast, but still I'd really recommend playing in VR. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time. This was kind of just a special because I really like Five Nights at Freddy's Help Wanted, and I think it's a game everybody can enjoy, and I just think it's the best. So, check out the game, you'll see why it's the best. Thanks for watching, I'll see you guys next time.